kick off. We are so excited to be here talking to you guys about social media strategy today. We will be working pretty closely off the handout, so if you do not have a handout, please try to go to the front and get one. Or just raise your hand and we'll have little minions come give you one. That might be a little bit easier. Can I have little minions come give some people some handouts, please? My name is Amanda McLernon. I am the founder and owner of McLernon & Co. McLernon & Co. is a social media agency. We got started 2 years ago. And I was going to start this out by saying I really like people. My background from a very, very young age was just being completely and wholly obsessed with people and friends and being social. And I got my start with social media when I was about 13, and AIM came out. I know AIM is technically a messenger platform, but really it was the very closest thing we had to a social platform until MySpace and Zanga came out. And I just, from day one, absolutely loved social media because that's where my friends lived. And instead of, a lot of people use social media as a way to maybe distance themselves or maybe see less people, I use it as a way to really deepen relationships. I started my agency. We are now a team of 6, which I'm really proud about. We're based here in Denver because I was looking at the way that other agencies, other marketers were doing social media, and I just kept thinking to myself, like, this isn't very social. Like, this just isn't, like, great, you're putting up content, and great, you're putting out stuff, but it's just stuff, it's just noise. And I was lamenting to one of my friends, because you're gonna get to know me, and I'm a little opinionated. If you know me well, you know that's a joke, because I'm a lot opinionated. But I just kept saying, I just wish social media was more, like, the way that marketers did it was more social. And why aren't we all just like keeping social media social? And the minute it came out of my mouth, I was like, whoa, I got something here. And so we've ran with it. And that's our mission, our mantra. That's the reason we exist. And it's the reason that I absolutely love social media is because we, as marketers and as business owners, have the ability to connect with the people that we are trying to serve, our clients, our customers. So like I said, founder and owner, I'm behind the Keep Social Media social movement. And you'll also see me really frequently present with General Assembly quite a bit. And then I'll give it up to Madison.
One quick note about how Amanda got here today. So I was presenting in this same room last year, so social media, because I love to get nerdy about social media apparently. And I was walking to my next session, just doing my own thing, and this woman comes out of nowhere and goes, hey, I saw you, you were fantastic, let's connect. And I'm like, all right. I had purple hair, so it was easier to find me at that time.
I was sitting right there.
She was eyeballing me. So I'm really glad to be here presenting with Amanda. Thank you. My background is in branding and content strategy, and I actually grew up without the internet. So for me, I fell into social media at this agency. It was a small town Nebraska, so give me some slack. So at my agency, they were introducing social media to their marketing program and asked me to take that on, and I just instantly fell in love with it. I fell in love with how much it changes. I fell in love with how much it can really impact a business and business goals, and from there on, the rest is history. My current position is Strategic Social Media Account Manager at a company here called AdTaxi, and I'm also a part-time instructor at General Assembly. So I teach Intro to Social Media Strategy, if anyone is interested. Shameless plug. Okay.
So in order to start thinking about what is social media strategy, what is a strategy, how do you start creating a strategy, where Madison and I really like to start off is by being very, very clear about what social media is not, because, what social media strategy is not. We hear this a lot, we hear this from our clients, we hear this from our friends, and I'm sure some of you have just thought, okay, maybe I have some of these things, so I have a social media strategy. So we kind of want to change that. So social media strategy is not just 30 planned posts for the month ready to go. A social media strategy is not just a checklist of platforms that you're going to use or that you are using. And finally, a social media strategy is not just a plan to get to 1,000 likes or 1,000 followers or 1,000 thumbs up on anything. And the reason that that is not a strategy, or any of those things alone are not a strategy, is because it's much bigger than that. A social media strategy is a plan to utilize social platforms to impact and support well-defined business goals that focus on reaching your target audience and engaging them through content that is specifically measured for its effectiveness. And those are what we're going to cover today.
So you'll see those 4 pillars highlighted on your worksheet, and we're going to harp on it so much today during our presentation. This isn't the only thing, or these aren't the only things you need within your social media strategy. This is just a benchmark to get started. We realize there are people here who are brand new. There are people here who have been doing it for a while. We're going to try and speak to everyone in the room. But what we really want is for you to walk away on that worksheet with a base plan to get started. So today we're going to talk about your goals. A lot of people are overwhelmed with social media. Where do I even begin with a social media strategy? That's going to lie within your goals. Focus. What platform should I be using? What messaging? Who should be involved within your company? Startups tend to be a lot smaller. If you have one person wearing multiple hats, are they the key decision maker, or is there somebody else involved? Content. You're going to hear a lot about content. How can you create meaningful content that really resonates with your audience? And it's not clutter. Like, you want it to be quality content, not just quantity. And then finally, measuring. How do you know if your social media strategy is working? We've got to measure it. So to start us off, it's really all about goals. And we're going to talk a lot about social media strategy goals, but first we need to nail down your business goals. To figure out what business goals to go after, make sure you can answer these 4 things right here. Do you have a brand? Do you have a solid brand that you know in and out, that your customers know in and out? Who is your audience? I have a lot of clients that I work with who say, oh, my audience is everyone. I have young people, old people, people in town, out of town. That's true, but when you think about the percentage of your sales, it's not split even across all those ages and all those demographics. There's a key audience out there that you really need to make sure you're narrowing in on. Messaging, once you narrow in on that key audience, what are you saying to them? Are you saying a message that connects with them, or is it yet another sales pitch? And then finally, what are you actually selling? So there's a gray area for some people because they think they don't sell a product or they don't sell a service. They have something unique. An example I like to give, I used to work for a nonprofit located here called Cupid's Undie Run. So it's an underwear fun run. All the proceeds go to charity. And we're selling tickets and we're asking people to donate. So we kind of fell in that gray area. But what we found is we're really selling an experience. Because we're selling this to people who may not be affected by the disease we're donating money to. We're selling it to people who just want to have fun in their underwear and feel good while doing it. We're selling this fun experience. So once you've nailed down those solid business goals, think to yourself, what social media goals can support those business goals? Is it a brand awareness campaign? Social engagement? Maybe it's something a little bit more tangible, like building your email database or just sending traffic to your website. All of those have to be supporting your business goals. Going back to what Amanda said, if you got 1,000 likes on your page, that's great, but what's it doing for your business goals?
So we wanted to take a second and talk about key performance indicators because they do matter, they are important, but they are most definitely not a goal. They're a way to measure the fact that you are getting closer to your goal. So a KPI, this is the literal definition, is a measurable value that demonstrates how successful your strategy is at achieving your set goals. Examples of KPIs would be likes, follows, impressions, reach, comments, engagement, and on and on and on, okay? That is a KPI. That is not necessarily a business goal or an overarching social goal. Now, is it possible to have, if you are the social media manager for your company, or if you are the person running the social media, is it possible to look at something and say, well, I do want to increase that month over month? Absolutely, yes, and you should be tracking and going into that. We'll go into that in our measurement section. But again, what we're really trying to harp on here is that is not your end goal. Does that make sense? It's something that supports the goal. So we're going to move into this fun example. And we're going to do this as an exercise together in just a minute, but I want to walk through. I want to give you guys some examples. So over here, you've got your business goals. That really needs to be something that your whole your whole organization, business, startup is bought into. And that's something that you should really be getting from key stakeholders in your organization. It's not just something that if you are alone on the social media island, you are just the one in charge of. You shouldn't be the one trying to come up with this. You should be working with your leadership team to make sure that you know what these are. Because then you go, okay, so business goals, increase. Let's say I want to increase by 3 to 5 clients per month, or I want to sell 30 clients this month. Then you can move into your social goals. So I want to get 200 clicks to my website from social. The reason I want to get 200 clicks is because I know clicks lead to the funnel of conversion, which is a business goal. Or I want to increase engagement rate 5% via personal comments, and that would be a month-over-month social goal, and you know that the comments that you get show brand loyalty, if that's what you're tracking. You always want to tie the goals to KPIs, and obviously some of these are similar to KPIs, but the big difference is that when you're looking at KPIs, you're really looking at overall, you're just trying to understand the different KPIs and what they are, and look at what they mean, and try to have like little individual plans. This is something that you can tie to the business goal. Does that make sense? Does that make, okay, great, I'm seeing heads nodding. Great, silent nod, thank you. So, this is gonna go into our first exercise. And by the way, our format for this session, we're gonna do some talking, then we're gonna break and do some exercises, and then we're gonna come back and do some talking. In order for us to get through our content and make this a really valuable session for you, we are going to try not to yell into this mic when we need you to come back together. But when you hear me start talking, I need you to stop talking, or we're just not gonna be able to move through it, okay? So please give us that respect. Okay, so for this exercise, in your worksheet, I want you to write down 2 business goals that you have in your organization. I want you to brainstorm all of the social media goals that might support those business goals, okay? Then I want you to narrow it down further. I want you to look for 2 or 3 of the social goals that most support the business goals, and I want you to circle them. And finally, I want you to think about what KPIs could indicate that you're supporting those goals. If you are struggling with this when you're moving through it, I want you to raise your hand because we're going to come through and we're going to try to help you. Now, this is also a lightning. How much time do we have for this one? 3 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, we're about 3 to 5 minutes in this little exercise. If when we hear you guys getting quieter, we're going to bring you all back, okay? Go.
And, you know, it's not, I need to target my goals and finding the right people in an organization. So I'm just trying to figure out a social goal for, you know, finding marketing executives or engineering executives and nobody else.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anyone else, you know.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm going to simplify it a little bit. So you are looking for clients, and your clients are of a very specific role, and you need to connect with more clients. So a goal for you, a business goal, is you need more clients. The social goal that would tie to that, you could go in a couple of different directions. So a social goal might be that you want to increase your LinkedIn connections on your personal profile. So it doesn't just need to be business pages, right, friends? By 20%, because you know that if you're able to increase that with exactly who the type of client that you're looking for is. And the metric that would tie back to that would be specific connections. Do you have another example?
No, yeah, I would say that's spot on. And going back to LinkedIn, because he did mention like a very specific professional field. You know, you can increase the amount of sponsored content, or increase the traffic that sponsored content drives to a page. Utilize the leads that you garner from that page, hit them with direct email. So kind of making sure you're doing that full funnel and making sure you're hitting the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I think we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so the next pillar here, we're gonna talk about focus. And the reason we had you write down all those social media goals, but only circle 2, is because it's really easy to get caught up in a bunch of goals that you want to accomplish. You can't do it all at once. But you're going to find in those top 2 or 3 that you circle, if you can accomplish those goals, there'll be others underneath that will filter in. So say you do want likes, you're a brand new page, you kind of need that reputation. If you're running a conversions campaign, those likes may fall in underneath. All right, so also a little news flash for some people. You do not need to be on all social platforms. Just be where your audience is. Going back to how important it is to really make sure you're taking care of your time and producing that quality content. Going back to Cupids, when I first started, we were on almost every single social media platform. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest. They had a Tumblr. And I'm like, this is great and all, but our audience is on 2 of these platforms. Don't be afraid to reserve your handle. Obviously, that's really a good best practice, but you don't have to include it in your marketing plan if it's not giving you the results you want. And then also going back into who's going to be involved. Like Amanda said, if you are the social media person and you're putting this together, who's the decision maker in your organization? It shouldn't fall all on you. So make sure they're bought into that as well and they're involved in the strategy process.
Can I talk to that? So the other reason that we bring that up is because your decision maker of your organization needs to be bought in, not just because it's nice to have them bought in. The reason they need to be truly, truly bought into this is because that way you don't have your boss coming up to you and be like, yo, Amanda, so we definitely need to increase the page by like 500 likes this month. Cool? And you're like, but that doesn't make any sense with the strategy, and they don't understand. So we've found, our decision maker would be our clients, right? If we can get the clients brought in from the strategy from the very start and they're understanding how goals are going after things, we might have a completely separate goal. I'm going to give you a very specific example. We've got one client right now who is a product-based business. They're a food snack, it's really yummy, and they are launching in Costco, Whole Foods, and just locations all across the country. Our paid strategy is way, way, way more strong and focused than our organic strategy because we have to specifically support specific target markets and specific target geographic areas. So right now, our number 1 goal is impressions and reach. When I say goal, our goal is brand awareness, and we're measuring it through the targeting, through the reach and impressions. But we specifically have conversation that right now, based on the budget, and by the way, time is a part of your budget. With all of that time, we know we are not hyper-focused on intense and crazy growth. Even though it's good, we really, really want the impressions, and we want the impressions through our ad strategy. So that's where we're putting most of our time. So that's why you want your decision maker bought in, because they really need to understand where you're going, what supports that, and what doesn't, and why you're not focused on that. Because you can't focus on absolutely everything, or that's where you're going to just spread yourself way too thin.
Yeah, and then just a little tidbit at the end here. Once you do find those valuable platforms, you've got the decision maker bought in, really make sure you're utilizing all the tools available within a social platform. And the tools, we have some examples here, aren't necessarily like analytics. It goes a little bit more deeper.
So we're going to take a pause here and talk about this for a second because, when Madison and I were making this presentation, we were really nerding out about where do people go wrong? Where do they get stuck? Where does it not work? Where does it fall apart? And this is one of the things that we completely agree on that we see as one of the biggest missed opportunities on social that businesses are doing. And here's what we mean. So think about the platforms that you're using right now for your social media. A lot of you probably have Facebook business pages, right? How many of you have a Facebook business page? Great. How many of you have an Instagram business page? Great, right? Think even just those 2. How many tools are you utilizing though on the platform? Are you just using the business page, or are you using every single channel that Facebook gives you access to in order to really, really utilize that channel to the best of its ability? Because if you've determined that your audience is on Facebook, or you've determined that your audience is on LinkedIn, great, they're there. Now use the tools that these platforms are giving to the nth degree in order to even continue connecting deeper. So I'm going to dive in really quick For some of these, I'm going to give you some examples. So we're going to start with Facebook. Facebook, you have Facebook groups. Facebook groups are an absolutely phenomenal tool, and you can use them as a consumer. You can use them as a business owner or representing your brand, business, startup. And you can also use them as a true business, running a business group. I'm going to try to stay a little high level because I could honestly give an hour-long talk just on that. But when you are utilizing groups, there are ways, so you, as an individual, you do have to represent yourself. So for me, it would be Amanda McLernon in the group if I were just a consumer. And I want to give you a couple of examples of how I utilize groups for my business because it frankly makes a lot of sense, and I want you guys to kind of think about how you could use that for yours. So we are a social media agency. We are involved in so many different Facebook groups, nationwide ones, and even Denver-based groups. A couple of Denver-based groups, one of the absence is the Denver Marketing Mavens. We utilize Denver Marketing Mavens for, frankly, to find talent when we're hiring. We use it to find cool events to go to and then go be social in person. There have been people who've posted in there like, hey, I'm looking for a social media company. Does anyone know of anyone? And that's when we get to raise our hand and say, hey, we do that in a really awesome way. So that's how we use groups as, even though it's Amanda, but I'm representing McLernon & Co. with that in mind. Does that make sense? So you do have to feel comfortable using your name. So if you're representing a much larger startup, for you as an individual, that might not work for you. Then there's also running a group. So I'm going to use us for an example again. We run a free Facebook group called Keep Social Media Social, and it's all about free advice and social media. And we let business owners in there, we let other social media managers in there, and everyone is there to learn about social media. But guess what? We are the experts who run it. And that creates buzz and drive and clout and, frankly, leads for us as well. So we're strategic about the way that we do that. I'm not saying that everyone in here should go out and create a Facebook group because, number one, it is a ton of time to manage. So don't, unless you have the time to focus on it, I don't recommend that. But it can be an absolutely phenomenal platform. We've seen clothing companies have insane success with this. They'll create VIP private groups. They won't spam ad people because that's annoying and a terrible practice. But they will just grow it and they will do sales within their group. And it's truly like a conversion tactic for them. So Facebook groups is phenomenal. Then there's Messenger. Chatbots are huge right now. I have seen realtors kill this, kill in like a super positive way. I mean that in a good way. I've seen them crush it with chatbots, and I've seen them use Facebook Messenger as an amazing tool to nurture, qualify, and disqualify leads before it ever gets to them. Live broadcasts. You guys, I was reading stats the other day, and live broadcast and video content is 10 times more likely to be seen in the newsfeed than any other type of content. There are lists and lists and lists and lists and lists of stats that show how much more engaging video, live, any of that is. If you are not utilizing that, if you're not comfortable on screen, try to find someone in your organization who is, or try to create some type of role or character or something that you can do, because live is so valuable and it should be treated as its own channel. And you should really be thinking about your very specific live strategy because it is that valuable. And then Ads Manager. A lot of people really like to complain about Facebook right now because of the algorithm and not having a lot of reach. We don't really allow that in our clients. Like, you're not allowed to complain. And the reason you're not allowed to complain is because we've had the beauty of having Facebook reach for free as marketers for years. But guess what? We as business owners, we as marketers, when have we ever expected anything for free? If you went into business thinking everything was going to be free, I have terrible news for you. It's not. And the reason that we're okay with paying for the reach and we're okay with paying for the tools that Facebook gives us is because it's a phenomenal targeting tool. If you can utilize the tool, and it's frankly not that expensive, it's way less than any other type of advertising that we've really especially as small businesses and startups, not had a ton of capital to be able to do, it is an incredible platform, and you should be using it, and you should be strategizing about it. So does that make sense? Like the different tools on the different platforms? And so you might be on Facebook, you might just be posting every day to your business page thinking like, I'm killing it. But if you're not using all of the tools on a platform, you are leaving so much on the table. I'll go quickly through Instagram and LinkedIn so that we don't spend too much time here. But on Instagram Stories, you guys, reach on Instagram Stories is up so high. And the reason that is amazing is because we know reach on posts is so low. So Instagram Stories, live broadcasts again, they get pushed so heavily. And Instagram continues to reward people with reach who continue to use the new features that are coming out. IGTV. We've got Boomerang, so even a creative way to make content in your stories. And then again, Ads Manager run through Facebook. It's such an incredibly powerful tool. On LinkedIn, so you can think of LinkedIn, again, just like you're thinking about Facebook, groups, and you'll represent personally, but guess what? If you're wearing that business hat, it is such an incredible tool for you to be able to do that. InMail, one-to-one, there's ways to do this without being spammy. You do not just because you see the word InMail does not mean you have to cringe. It doesn't mean you have to go cold calling. It doesn't mean you have to be that random guy who of course offers like SEO and PPC and emails you like every single day. You don't need to be that. There's ways to do a really good job of being a savvy and really good social media marketer with using InMail in a really natural way. And then sponsored content. I will say, asterisk, LinkedIn sponsored content is expensive. It's way more expensive than Facebook and Instagram advertising. So if you're just getting out of the gate, I would not recommend that. But there's a lot of other creative ways that you can use LinkedIn well beyond just putting up a post in the newsfeed.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely expensive, but if your audience is there, like specific professionals, Facebook did remove some targeting with all that data stuff. But start with your budget. We'll go into that more with measuring it. Before we move on, I do want to say make sure your tools use them together as well. Like we gave the example of LinkedIn. Use that sponsored content, drive people to a website with a form fill, use those emails and hit them with InMail because they're farther down the funnel. So make sure you're using those tools together. You can do the same with Facebook as well. Yeah. Okay, so our next exercise is going to be focus. So we talked about auditing your social platforms. Are you on too many? Are you not on enough? Write down what social platforms your business, or if you're here representing yourself, write those down as well. If you have room, maybe write the strengths and weaknesses on them. Let's narrow down which ones are working for you. And then we're going to move on to list 3 ideas that you can better utilize those tools on X platforms that you chose.
Okay, so we're not going to wrap up quite yet, but I do want someone to raise their hand and let me talk to them about 3 areas that they plan on deepening their focus on a specific platform. Okay, right in the front row. Thank you so much. Feel free to tell us what your business is, tell us what platform, and then tell us about how you can use the tools a little bit better.
I'm actually with a nonprofit, and it's called Sierra. It's part of Sierra Club. And we're national, and obviously I'm here just in Denver. How do you use live video well when you have a national audience, but the folks posting your social media are only in one place?
Yeah, that's a super good question. So there is an app that I'm going to specifically recommend to you. It's called BeLive TV. It is a paid app, but it's absolutely phenomenal. And the cool thing about it is that you can go live with 2 different people split screen, and you don't need to be in the same place. And what I would recommend for you in your situation would be having the person who does the social media be like a host and do interviews with either key stakeholders in the business, key people who are benefiting from the nonprofit, Oh my gosh, I could go on for days, but I would do that either interview style, or that's how I would have like a little, even potentially like a little bit of a talk show. But then you would have your social team being able to still lead that live. Yeah. Who has who can I use? Who is, okay. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna have you stand up, say your brand and your business and your platform and the 3 ways that you're gonna deepen.
Okay.
You can do it.
Sorry, I'm short. Ebony, my social media handle is Endocannabis Wellness. I'm a cannabis research assistant, so my business is to connect the community to cannabis knowledge and also to get people of color into the cannabis space.
Awesome. Okay, what platform you're using?
Instagram.
And what are 3 ways that you can use the different tools better?
Ooh, my LinkedIn is lacking. Could definitely update that because a lot of people have actually reached out to me for that and also for jobs in the area as well too. And like I know that, but I don't ever get to it.
Okay.
Email is my primary source of response.
That's okay, we'll help you. So Instagram, right? There's Instagram, there's the main post in the newsfeed, and that's the most traditional way to use Instagram. That's how we've been trained to use Instagram. But there's so many other opportunities to push content out using Instagram. So if I were in your shoes, I would think about how can I make more story-based content, okay? And can I do story-based content 3 to 4 times a week and up the level of stories? Can I go live twice a week? Can I showcase my product live? Can I showcase what I'm doing? Can I talk about what I'm doing? Do you have any other ideas?
Yeah.
I would also say really utilize user-generated content, especially on Instagram. You're trying to get these people into this industry to break through, so showcase them through your channel.
Mm-hmm. So that would be 3 ways to go deeper on that platform. So again, the whole point here with our focus is instead of trying to think about every single platform that you could potentially be on, we're trying to think about, okay, great, you're using Facebook, you're using Instagram, I'm totally just making a generalization here, okay? But then how do you use those platforms deeper and the tools that they create on those platforms even better? Because by not using all of the tools on a platform, it's literally leaving money on the table. It's not deepening your strategy well enough using those platforms, and it's really just, I mean, frankly, like you're kind of half-assing it. Whole-ass the platforms. Okay.
Please. Okay, so really quick we're going to dive into, and I say really quick because that's a joke, we're going to spend a lot of time on this one. So we all hear content is king, but what does that even mean? It really content means create meaningful content. Your company should be the source, the expert, and the educator. This is so important because it needs to come from you. We're talking about that quality content that's going to resonate with that audience. Yes, again, your audience is all over the place, but that core audience that has bought into you or is about to buy into you, you're the one educating them. You are the one that knows your business inside and out. So you have the ability to create this amazing content. We've added some content prompts on your worksheet, and we've also put some up here as well. If you're struggling, what can I do? How can I produce this content? How can I make it meaningful? Think, what is something that your customer decision maker is trying to solve or fix? What is something they're trying to learn? What are their concerns or fears about your industry? What's making them nervous about dipping their toes into your service or buying your product? What could you provide for them that will make their life easier? Why are we dropping money on things? It makes our life easier. It fulfills us. How can you do that for your customers?
One of the absolute biggest things about quality content, and this gets really back to the heart of Keep Social Media Social. Quality content is not just selling shit, okay? None of us log on to Facebook or log on to Instagram to be sold to. If you were to scroll, right, and every post was something trying to sell something to you, you would leave the platform, which, by the way, is why Facebook and Instagram reduce reach for businesses that just put up salesy posts all the time because they know their users don't like that. And frankly, I mean, look, we are all marketers here. I mean, when I say that, if you're a business owner, you all now have to be a marketer. Good job. But we are all marketers, we're all business owners, we're all startups, we're all in these businesses. But do you know what we also are? We're end users. And if we would hate that experience, so would your user. So the biggest shift that I really want everyone here to make is, instead of thinking about like, well, what content do I need to like sell my product? Like I never want that to come through your mind almost ever again. It's, how can I serve my target audience? What do they need? What are they worried about today? What are they worried about overall? Where is their mindset when they're in the decision-making process to buy my product? What information is no one else in the industry giving them? How do I serve them? And let me make sure like I'm covering what I want to cover here. Just because I say you're not specifically selling all the time doesn't mean that that quality content can't help lead them closer to a buying decision, okay? You just have to think about the way that you do it. One of the best examples that I've heard of, there's a lot of examples, so I shouldn't say one of the best, just one that's coming to my mind right now is, if you're a pool company, it is really expensive to dig and get a pool and do the stuff, and, sorry I say that, do the stuff, I don't know. They dig and they put it in, I don't know. What questions would a homeowner have about that process? How long is my yard going to be ripped up? How long am I not going to have access to this? How intense of a process is this? Like, what is potentially the best season to start this so that I don't get messed up? Like, what are the 4 things that most often go wrong when you're doing this process? They want answers, right? And those answers to those questions are going to lead them through the buying decision-making process. The answers need to come from your company. Does that make sense, everyone? Yay, I like head nods. Okay, cool.
Just a little quick thing to add as well. When we're talking about they have questions, a little hack to figure out what they're even asking, look at the comments on your posts. Like, what are people looking for? What are they asking about? There's going to be a common thread that maybe is missing from your website. Or, to be quite frank with you, people don't read. So you could have it all over your website, write a post about it, constantly share it with your people or your audience. Just make sure that it's right there in front. But just look at what they're saying online and they'll tell you. And also, we talk heavily about Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. These apply to all the platforms as well. I just want to throw that out there. So if somebody's feeling a little alienated, definitely find us after or speak up during the exercises, because we're talking about cross-platforms when we're talking about this. Just a little note there.
This is also where it goes back to utilizing other people in your organization. Okay, as a small, let's say small business or startup or anything, you have other people in your organization who probably get questions. If you are in a larger startup, think about your sales team. Your sales team gets a ton of questions in their buying process. How are you working with your sales team to figure out what content you need to be pushing out online to help that buyer close so much faster? This is also your, thinking about your key decision maker. Like what problem were they solving when they had this grandiose idea of this product or this service or whatever it is? If they made something out of need for their life, or if this is you who made something out of need because you saw a need and you wanted it, what were you struggling with when you did not have this thing? What questions did you have? What research were you trying to do? So utilize as many people in your organization as you can to think about this, because this becomes your source of inspiration for your content. Yeah. And that takes us into 2 types of content that we would like to bring up, long form, and the next one is going to be short form. And I want to explain the difference, because if you can nail down the difference between these 2 things, creating quality content is going to be so much more simple for you. So content in long form. I like to think of long form content as content that is going to stick around for a longer amount of time. And because it's going to stick around for a longer amount of time, a lot more effort needs to go into creating it. This is your highest quality content. This is what you spend money on. If you, for example, if you're not a great writer but you want to write blog posts, this is what you spend money getting someone to edit this on, because this is going to stick around for a little while. So long form content, I have 3 examples: blog posts, planned and strategic live broadcasts, planned, filmed, professional video. Long form content is where you are doing a lot of the answering of the questions that we just talked about. It's where you're digging deep. It's not where you're saying, tune back to learn more about this specific topic if that's what the post is about. No, no, no. I want all of my questions on that specific topic answered. And then if that leads me to another question, well, great, that's another piece of content. But if it is on a specific topic, it should answer or cover everything about that content, or excuse me, about that topic. Anything on?
No, just like some examples as well. So if you're thinking about a product, I am fortunate enough to work with a nationwide shoe brand. They run with Schmelas, and they do, thank you, somebody got it. So, you know, they have their product releases that are seasonal. So they look at their seasons as producing that long form content. Sticking in that short form content, which we'll go into really quickly, they sent a team, their social team, to a store and did a live video of the new styles out for the season. So they're taking in this giant long form content that they've been producing of the ads and the blogs, the strategically placed, or excuse me, the strategically planned out blogs, and tying that all into this one form of short content. So just like an example of what we're talking about, a lot of times on the paid side, it's like the campaign. You have this overarching campaign, but you can utilize smaller pieces of it.
So again, the long form content is the really strategic, well thought out content. It takes a lot of time to make this content, okay? This is where you're investing the time, and frankly, if you're hiring someone else, this is where you're investing a lot of your money too. Because if you're writing a blog post that is really trying to move your buyer through the buying decision, it needs to be a longer potential blog post. It needs to answer the questions, and it needs to be really well produced. The good news is, because you spend so much time in long form, then you can move into short form quite easily. So short form content is content that you would put up on a day-to-day basis. So this might look literally individual social posts of any kind. So you could have a tweet. That is a short form piece of content. But if you have a tweet with a blog post link, you're utilizing your long form content in your short form content. Okay? Are you following me? Great. Maybe it's short live broadcasts that are more off the cuff. Maybe it's on the spot video that you've just decided to take a little video, record it, and put it up. This is content that is not quite as strategic. When I say, no, rewind. I don't like that so much. Don't write that down. No, it's strategic, but it's not as fully thought out as some of your long form pieces, because your short form content supports your long form content and your overall strategy. It just takes a lot less time to put up and execute on. Now, the reason that we get excited about short form content is because if you do your long form content really well, you spend a lot of time, you have someone edit a blog post for you, you can now break down the content in that blog post 100 different ways and make a ton of short form content from that one piece of long form content. So you are just lengthening the lifespan of the content that you invested a lot of time, energy, or money into making by breaking it down then into shorter posts. We do that all the time. It's one of the smartest ways that we're able to use our content. And that's how you get to be, that's how you get to the place where you have 30 posts a month, but you have the really strategic long form pieces and you break it apart. Cool. So our next exercise is a content brainstorm. So first, I want you thinking about 3 forms of long form content. Okay? Maybe this is a blog post. Maybe this is a live where you are teaching someone something or answering some specific questions. Maybe this is a video that you want developed for your business on social. First, think of that. Then I want you to think of 3 short form ideas that stem from your long form content and how you might be able to utilize that content. Everyone understand the exercise? Cool. Okay, I'm going to call on someone else in a little bit too. Yeah. No. Yes.
So, I am looking at all your stuff, and in here are like single employee companies.
Yeah.
How the hell do I do this? I don't have time to make content while trying to actually produce product.
Yeah.
Or produce services. So
Yeah.
is that something you can
Let me try to talk to that right now. That's a great question. So the question is, single owner, single employee, just them. How the heck do you have time for all of this? And
planning.
yeah. Yep. So let me.
Do you want me to?
What?
I can pick somebody, share their example, and
Yeah.
answer his question.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's do this one. Okay, who's the brave soul that's going to share their example? I want somebody in the back hiding. You're not really hiding, but you're back there. You're welcome to come back.
Hi, my name is Adri, and I run a business called Afro Triangle Designs. I do a project called Women Behaving Badly, which is all about women in history. I create paintings of these women, do a bunch of research. I get to go to talk to kids at schools, and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So my ideas for long-form content are videos of my actual painting process, so showing people how I create the pieces that I create. Videos talking about the various women that I study and I learn about, so that people have that information as well as blog posts about the social mission, which is teaching particularly young women and girls, but obviously boys, men as well, about women from our past who have made so many contributions to the world that we live in. So spin-offs from those in the short form would be short clips of the video process. I use Instagram a lot, so I know if things are down to about a minute. So high-speed video, that kind of deal. Images of the final artwork, which is the strategy I have been using. It's been working quite well. As well as posts about the different experiences I've had giving talks at schools, just one-on-one conversations I've had with people.
Good job. Yay, round of applause. That was great.
That's awesome.
Good job.
Okay, 3 things. First of all, badass. Second of all, what's that? Oh,
Afro Triangle Designs. So Afro like the hairdo, triangle like the shape, designs.
Afro Triangle Designs. Fine done. Another thing is all of your long form can tie into each other as well, and you have like a really great strategy right there. And then third, spin-off is a really good way to think about short form too, because it helps you kind of wrap your head around how to make it strategic. Like, okay, we're pulling from that long form, let's do a small little snippet of it. And we had a question from the audience that Amanda has a great answer for.
So the question, and I'm really glad you asked it, because I think this is a question that Madison and I get asked a lot, and this is also something that you guys are probably sitting in the audience. If you are a solopreneur right now, it is just you. You are the marketer, you are the business owner, you are the social media manager, you do everything. First, I've been there, and so for both Madison and I have both been there. We feel you. Now, how the heck do you have time for all of this? Because it does take a lot of time. So first, I do, yes, a lot of people think of social media as something super fluffy. When I tell people I own a social media agency, I cannot tell you how many people are like, oh, that's cute. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Social media is incredibly strategic and it does take a lot of time, especially to do it right. And so I'm glad that you're acknowledging that it takes a lot of time. This is why you need to spend so much time focusing. This is why Madison and I are huge preachers of the fact that you do not need to be on every social channel. You should not, you should not try to do that, because you will fail. You'll spread yourself too thin. You won't be able to actually dig your hands into a strategy. So the first thing is really commit to 1 to 2 platforms where your clients are. I gotta tell you guys, like, yes, we own a social media agency. If you look at our Twitter, like, it looks nice because we make sure it looks nice. We do not use Twitter because we do not get our clients off Twitter. We get our clients off of Instagram and, frankly, like, my personal LinkedIn. So go where your clients or your customers are. And you can find that by doing research, by listening, and by looking at where your clients are already. A few years ago, now there's not so many questions about it, everyone was like, oh my gosh, I should definitely be on Snapchat, right? And I was like, no. For a couple of you, if you are selling to like 13 to 21-year-olds, yeah, go ahead, jump on Snapchat. However, if that is not where your people are, do not expend more of your energy trying to get people to go to those social platforms. Show up where they already are, and then show up in creative ways to support them. Now, there's still that thing of, well, wait, even if I'm just showing up on 2 platforms, there's still a ton of time. This is where you're being, again, very, very strategic. So start your month with a planning session. Go over your business goals. Look at what social efforts are going to be needed to support those business goals, and really just focus on those. There's no reason you should necessarily need to publish more than 4 blog posts a month, especially if you're not a blogger, okay? Think about the content that is going to move.
Can you stick to your timelines? So when you're creating this long-form content, you clearly have some sort of timeline that you're going to start and you're going to end and move on. Can you be consistent within those timelines? You have this idea, you're going to set aside 2 hours every week to work on social media. You start off strong, and then it starts to taper off. That could hurt you, and you might also get burnt out. So really make sure you're consistent with your posting by being realistic with your time. Don't be afraid to use scheduling tools. And I say that with caution because don't just set it and forget it. It's super easy to plan out your entire month of content, schedule it out, and then move on to other parts of your business. I get it, like, it's just done on the checklist, you can move on. But there's a customer service piece to social media. And going back to content, creating it, what are people saying on those posts? If you just ignore it, you could be missing a huge conversation. You know how we see all those like PR uh-ohs on social media, and sometimes it takes kind of a while for them to respond? You don't want it to, I'm not saying that's going to happen with a startup, but you know, big theory, think about, like, you want to be on top of the conversation about your brand online. We've listed a few of our favorite tools. Buffer is completely free. If you're on a tight budget, you know, I have a nonprofit background, so I know what that's like. Hootsuite, it's a paid version. It used to be free. I don't think there's a free version anymore. And then Sprout Social. This is a really great tool because not only can you schedule within, but you don't have to leave the platform to respond to people on your other platforms. I could go on and on about Sprout Social, and I know I'm going to get into it. It's a very, very powerful tool. You do have to put some money behind it, but you get what you put behind it. And it can really help streamline your processes.
Anything else interesting?
The only thing, but just to go back to the time thing for a second, this is also where you can get your time right, because if you have your long form content, you put a ton of time into making that, then you build out your short form content, then you schedule it out. That's where you get your time back. That's where you've done a really good job doing your deep work. That's where you've done your scheduling. That's where you've done all of that, and then you get to move on to other things. And then you get to show up very genuinely when you want to show up. That goes back to the keep social media social thing, right? So then you can show up genuinely to engage with your audience after you have things scheduled out.
Okay, I've been like chomping at the bit to do this one. How often do I post? Hi, I'm brand new. I don't know how many times a day to post. My page is fresh. Where do I go? How many people walked in here with that question? Oh, wow, everybody knows. Okay, awesome. Everyone's like, I post 3 times a day, it's fine. So a lot of people, you don't know where to start. And I get the question so much in my social media consulting. How often do I post? And I really hate to break it to you, but there is no easy answer. You have to put in some work. How often you post depends on what your audience wants. Hello, they're the ones that are going to eat that content. Your time, how much time do you have to produce this content? And also, like, what are you seeing with that? Okay, I have time to make 4 quality posts a week, but I'm not really seeing any return. Do I flood the market? Do I pull back? No, like, listen to what your audience is saying. Maybe they're not liking your comment, or maybe they're not liking your post, they're not engaging with it, but you're seeing some really good analytics behind it about traffic to your website. It comes back to those KPIs, like what's going to be the most important thing to measure with that post. So you have to do the work behind how often to post and what to post. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. Okay, this is the fun exercise, because they've all been really fun. We're going to create some short form content. So right now, if you're here representing your business, create a post about this event. Post on Insta, post on Facebook, Twitter. Let's start posting. If not, post on your personal page, bragging that you're here enhancing your skills at Denver Startup Week. You guys are out here right now. You came all the way over here. You're trucking around all week. You're badass. So let's post about it. Use the hashtag DenStartupWeek and keep social media social, if you don't mind. And let's take about 5 minutes for that.
When you are making this content, like, we want you to get up and move. Like, we want this to be quality content, because even if it's short form, it doesn't need to just be like a photo of just of us up here, especially if that doesn't make sense for your brand. That's like not what we're asking you to do. Let's take a photo of you, I don't know, like with the audience behind you. Like, you can get up and move to take a photo and get someone to like hand your phone and take a photo of you, of like you participating at Startup Week. We want this to be for you and your company saying, I'm here at Startup Week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're not asking you just to take a photo of us. Like, please don't do that. And yes.
We are also here to help you too. So if you want any of us to do social media, social shirts to like show you instead.
Yeah. If you don't want a photo alone, grab the people next to you and we'll take a photo together. That's allowed too. But let's try to get social with it. So, ready, friends? Ready? We do want to make sure to have time for Q&A. That's why we kind of like bring you in. So we are getting there. Our last topic, though, is measurement. And this can be one of the most daunting things. And this is also something that gets overlooked, especially if you're a solopreneur. The reason that measurement really matters is you can think you have the greatest social media strategy in the world, and you're like, yes, I'm creating content, and yes, I'm putting it up, and oh my gosh, I had a super productive Sunday, and everything is great, right? Well, if you don't measure it, how do you actually know? Just because you feel good because you put something up doesn't mean it's actually a good strategy. Oh, by the way, we've had a couple people leave, so if you see seats that you want to trickle in, I just want to try to make sure people are comfortable. There's definitely like 2 seats available on the couch. And we're cool with that.
We're cool.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure people are like kind of comfortable. Sorry. We really appreciate you guys, sticking it out with us. But yeah, you really need to be able to measure your content. And measuring your content does not need to take a ton of time. This could just be a quick little check-in. I know Madison is super passionate about this, so I'm gonna hand this one off to her.
I'll try not to get too nerdy because I do want time for Q&A as well. So when you're measuring it, it's super important to look at your budget. I get asked a lot, do I need a budget? How big does it have to be? From the nonprofit background, I know what it's like to not have much money to put behind your social media, and that's fine. It comes down to how you utilize that budget. If you're going to create a social media strategy and not put money behind it, don't freak out about the algorithm, especially on Facebook and Instagram. A lot of people worry. In my career as a social media marketer, Facebook has updated its algorithm 3 times. All 3 times, everyone around me lost their minds. But guess what? We're fine. If you're strategic about your content, ding, 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 the algorithm is not going to hurt you. So if you have that time to put in some strategic, long-form content, you're going to be okay not putting money behind it. But if you do put a budget behind it, I can't give you a number, going back to how often do I post, but just really make sure you're utilizing that budget to the best you can.
We can give you numbers one-on-one, but
I'm
not
not going to throw some numbers
big
out there.
group.
You need $1 billion. There you go. So make sure that you're setting benchmarks, set those timelines and benchmarks within that long-form content, within that campaign, to really check in on your progress and make room for optimizations. You might find that some of your videos aren't hitting as hard as you want. That's okay. Switch them out, especially if you're putting money behind it. Measuring tools. Before I dive into too many, I'm a purist. I started with not a lot of time on my hands, and now I have a team, so I'm really thankful for that. But if you have the time, go into your Google Analytics. I'm not saying get certified, but really try to understand where that traffic from social is coming from and what it's doing. Pair that with the analytics within your social platform so you can understand how those two are talking together. There are many, many, many social analytic tools out there. You're going to talk to any social media manager and they're going to tell you their favorites. But if you can understand how the platform and your website are talking to each other, it's really going to enhance your social media strategy and how you plan for the future. And what do I mean by they're talking to each other? Pixels. Pixels are a snippet of code that go on your website that talk back to your social platform. They gather really valuable information about the visitors on your website and their actions. I think it's crucial for measuring any sort of ad campaign that you're putting money behind to track performance, conversions, building audiences. Even if you're not putting money behind your campaign or your strategy, the pixel is still going to gather that audience data for you. I'm pretty sure almost all social platforms at this point now have a pixel. We were kind of digging on Snapchat a little bit, but they do have a pixel as well, and it follows to Facebook. Let's see. Anything you want to add on that?
Let me see. Just one word of advice, if you're really feeling foreign with Google Analytics, or if you're really feeling foreign with any of this stuff, Google is your best friend. And I say this because things in our world change so much, and a lot of people ask, like, well, how do you learn? When I don't know how to do something, I literally type word for word what is going on in my head into the Google search bar. I'm one of those like long tail keyword type people. But if you are not sure either how to look at your Google Analytics, like search like how to start viewing my Google Analytics, like where should I start with Google Analytics? And the amount of content that people put up there to help you that is more simple is phenomenal, okay? Obviously you can consult with someone on that, but make Google your best friend. And even once you're in Google Analytics, if you're like, I'm not totally sure what that means, Google it. Like Google word for word, what does this mean? Or what does this type of, I mean, it's just your best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say, so one thing I'd like to add to that, when I went to college, there were no social media classes.
Mm-hmm.
I took basic marketing classes and then got thrown out to the real world, and I Googled a lot, and I found a lot of my favorite resources.
Yes.
So, do you like that segment? That's a good one.
Yeah, that was good.
So our favorite resources right here, we could go on and on and on about what we look at every morning, what we're reading up on, but right here, we put down Social Media Examiner is a website. They're really great on staying on top of social trends, what's happening in the industry. TechCrunch is pretty great as well about introducing what's new to platforms, what social platforms are coming out that may be new. I am a huge fan, and we both gushed about this when we read The Daily Carnage. It's an email newsletter every day, comes in your inbox. They have a different theme every time, and they basically scan the internet for podcasts, articles, new releases, and put it in a very funny, very easy to digest newsletter. I can't talk enough about it. And then the Buffer podcast, if you commute, I commute by train, so I listen to a lot of podcasts. Buffer is a really great one to use as a resource as well.
Mm-hmm. The reason we give these to you, but by the way, like this is the money shot of our presentation, because this is, if you want to know how we get our new information, we spend a ton of time consuming other content. And this is where we do the most of it. So if you are looking to take your next level into social, I will tell you, if you are a brand new beginner, a lot of what is through those websites is going to be over your head. But the more and more you just start listening and get into it, the deeper you'll get into it and the more quickly. So yeah, you're welcome. Sharing all of our secrets, like bearing our souls almost.
We're out of a job. Okay.
So again, I want to go back to what a social media strategy is, right? And you know, when Madison and I were putting this together, we've seen a lot of presentations on social media, and we also know, like as presenters, it is really a challenge to present this topic because it is so broad, and frankly, we both could do like an 8-hour workshop where we really, really took a deep dive into this. Today we scratched the surface. Today we got started, okay? And what I really want you walking away here from is truly understanding what an actual strategy plan is and is not. So again, it is a plan to utilize the social platforms to impact and support well-defined business goals that focus on reaching your target audience and engaging them through content, and that content is specifically measured for its effectiveness. So that is what we have for you guys. We really do hope it was useful. Both Madison and I love to present, but we don't just like to hear ourselves talk. We actually really love to give back this way. So if you have feedback, good or bad, we welcome it after the presentation. Be nice, because we put a ton of time into this. No, but if there's things that you would have liked to see, or if there's things you were hoping to see, we actually want to know that, because both of us are trying to grow this, this speaking thing. We have time for questions. It's 5:21 for an update on time. We're gonna, yes.
Can you briefly describe the differences between advertising or using social media for the SaaS as opposed to like a tangible item?
Yes. Do you want me to take this one? I definitely can. Okay, so SaaS versus like a tangible item. So this is opinion, but I'm going to share it freely. With SaaS, you have a lot of different purposes for your content. I'm going to just take a really quick second to make sure I'm not going to totally mess this up. You mean like a software platform, correct? Great. I just wanted to make sure before I really went down a rabbit hole. So you have a couple of purposes for your social. You have a sales purpose. You also have a huge support focus, okay? And that is something that way too many execs forget, is that their social is going to be the place where people are looking for how to use the platform. And the reason that still matters is because, especially in a software program, you want the renewals, right? You don't want the churn of your customers. So even though it is support, that is still a sales functionality, right? So if I were you, I would be focusing quite a bit on working with your sales team up front and focusing on what types of questions they answer to get people into the program. Then I'd be working with your customer account reps, and I'd be looking at what types of questions are they constantly answering, what types of resources could you continue to put out to support the people who have signed up for your software system. And then I would also look at you've probably got a customer retention team, and I don't know how big your startup is, okay, but maybe these are all one people, okay, one person, excuse me. But then you're also looking at that, and you're looking at why do people churn? So what do they not like about the software, or what could they not understand about it, and how do we create resources and push those resources in social to support that? Does that make sense? Does that kind of answer your question?
Perfectly.
Yes.
Great job.
Yeah, free advice.
I've got one in the back.
Yeah.
So as a solopreneur, I'm doing absolutely everything, and to be perfectly honest, social media has been like one of the most terrifying things for me to approach, because I have so high of an expectation for like what I want to be able to do with it. How do you suggest I slowly ease into all of these things without completely overwhelming myself and giving up?
That's a great question. You want to take that one?
I would say, I'm going to regurgitate what we put up there. Like, what are your goals for it? And then how much time do you have? But, like, what do you have fun doing? Like, what part of social media is fun for you? What is something within your business that is really fun for you to share as well? Like, you're the expert, so what do you, we get jazzed talking about social media. So we post a lot about social media. What gets you super excited about your business that you can share with your audience as well? So kind of reducing that this is overwhelming. You're gonna have big ideas. We all have these huge ideas that we want to accomplish with social media, but take it step by step and just dip your toe in and have fun first. That's kind of a vague answer.
I'm also gonna go back to like KSS, keep it simple, stupid. Like if you have 100 different ideas, of course you're gonna overwhelm yourself. but it's okay to brain dump 100 different ideas, but look at what type of content is actually going to move the needle and focus on that content first.
Yeah.
I saw your hand.
Hi guys, great presentation. I really enjoyed it. I have a question. What is one of your favorite tools for like hashtags and hashtag optimization for like new clients coming in who maybe you're not super familiar with their field?
Yeah. You want
No,
to?
go for it.
Okay, so I am a purist with hashtags. That's funny. There have been hashtag tools. To be totally frank, the best way I do my hashtag research is actually by going on Instagram, searching. Okay, so I have a lot of theories on hashtags, so it actually goes into like the theories on the way we use the hashtags. But searching for the first one that comes to my mind, then I look at the hashtags. It shows related underneath. I'll tap into those. Right now, we are primarily using hashtags for our clients that have 1 million uses or under. We are not using hashtags that have 1 million uses or over because the content just drowns. And based on like what we've seen for the algorithm change, those are the hashtags that are performing the best. So I'll go to related. I'll look for the smaller ones. And then the other sneaky thing, there's so many sneaky things I do, but if you go to the hashtag, you can see the content that's been posted. I click into the content and I look at what other hashtags that person used, because if they use that hashtag, they might be using other relevant hashtags. And I just let myself go into a terribly deep rabbit hole until I have 30. And I still use 30 hashtags. It is more strategic than that, I promise, because I've got like different layers. I need like 10 hashtags that like hit this, and 10 that hit this, and 10 that hit this. But it takes me 30 minutes to explain my hashtag strategy. So I'm going to use that. So again, doing it yourself. I've used tools. I've paid for tools. I don't like them. I don't trust them. Sorry if anyone owns a hashtag tool, but let's talk because I have some feedback. Yeah. I saw your hand.
So one of my new clients is a CBD company. They have absolutely zero social presence at all. They're not allowed to pay for ads, that sort of thing. So I'm suggesting consumer-generated content.
Yep.
And they also don't have any consumers yet. So one of the issues is trying to figure out how to go and get people. I'm thinking go into groups, people who have certain moments, find those people, give them free products, and hopefully get them to create user-generated content. We can't do affiliates, but do you have any other suggestions for kind of recruiting people for user-generated content?
Ooh, such a fun question. I love this one. Yeah, CBD and even weed industries, you have to be super creative about with the way that you market because there are so many limitations. The other thing that they might not know yet is even when they do get their platforms up and running, they can get shut down literally at any time. You will not get them back. It is just a risk that you have to take in that industry. So, side note, I know you didn't ask that, but I wanted to tell you that. Okay, so creative ways to get user-generated content. Host an event. Okay, oh, I get so excited about this. In-person events drive so much social buzz and social focus, and you can actually set up different ways for them to create user-generated content on site at your event with a very small budget. So whether you hire a photographer there and you're like taking it, but it's actually users there and you've got a little setup, or you want to encourage them, one of the best ways, I have to give someone a shout out, it's a company in Colorado called the Diamond Reserve, and she was at an event recently and she brought a huge diamond ring and she made this adorable little catwalk for your fingers, and so you put the ring on and you like walk it down the catwalk. It was so creative. And it was a cute little creative box. It was like this big, and I guarantee it didn't take her more than like $100 to create. And that was super, super creative. And she got a ton of user-generated content. It's all the same user-generated content, but I mean, that was awesome. Yeah. So does that kind of answer your question? I definitely think you should throw an event, invite people to the event. Not only does it get the awareness out there about your brand, but then you have the opportunity to have user-generated content created on site through your team and through the people who are there attending the event. Yeah.
Yeah. I would also just add, you mentioned groups. Definitely utilize them. Don't come in strong selling. You probably know that. But it'll give you a taste as well as, are these the right people for us? So if you can play around with those groups, because if they're brand new, you're kind of struggling to figure out who your audience is, right? So while you're planning out that event, test those groups and those locations, use the resources you have. The client started that business for a reason, so they probably have some sort of resources around them to help kind of dip into that audience pool. Cool.
Okay, I saw.
Thank you. So for my startup, we primarily use Facebook, and you can tell on your page, let's say you have 1,500 people like your page, and then you can create a post, it'll say seen by 3, and it'll say, do you want to boost it? So how, I guess, is the best way to, even if you have so many likes, people will like your page, or your customers or repeat customers, how do you actually engage them? Because it says it's reached by 2 or 3 people, and then you go boost it, it's reached by more.
Oh, I love this answer so much. Can I start? Do mine? Because obviously. Okay. Likes is a vanity metric. They really, especially on Facebook, it gives you clout. It makes you popular. Maybe it gives you some reference. If you're pitching to to investors, they like to see that. Otherwise, it's kind of trash. It didn't used to be this way. Okay, sorry. So, sorry. Yay. Really what you're going for is reach right now, okay? And you can continue to get reach without having, you can reach anyone, even if they don't necessarily follow you. You need to think about the different ways to do your content. Right now, traditional newsfeed posts, even just with a photo and a caption, they're getting less and less and less reach. It is what it is. It's the algorithm. So think about other ways to do your content. We know that video and Facebook Live get 10 times more reach than that type of content. So switch the type of your content up. I strongly believe in boosted budgets. If you take good time making content, I don't think you should be afraid of putting a budget behind it and using the amazing targeting tools that Facebook gives you to reach the audience that needs to be reached with that content. So don't be afraid of boosts. Likes are a vanity number. Think about different forms of content.
Yeah, basically everything she just said. So I was going to put a slide in about vanity metrics, but then I told myself to take a step back and not be mean. But yes, what are those boosted posts going to do? Yeah, you get more reach, but what's that going to do for you? You could put that money behind something a little bit more powerful that could lead to your website, or behind a lead form where you can actually capture those leads. I personally think boosted posts are great for something that is time sensitive. So you have an event. Last minute dish for registrations. You have a flash sale. Let's boost this post. If you do have something that's performing really well, and again, it's showing website traffic to your blog or something, yeah, put some money behind it. But if you're just looking at likes, trying to think, yeah, it doesn't really. What's it going to do for you in the long term? How's it going to tie into those business goals that we talked about? Sorry to poop on likes. So we're going to be around for questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. We really appreciate it.